Okay, well anyway, we're at a point now where we can start putting some hackle on this fly. Now I want to reiterate at this point that we are really not working on any specific fly here. We're not concerned about color schemes. What we are concerned about is putting together a well-proportioned fly. Now what I like to do is I like to keep the feather on the cape, bring the whole cape over, pick out a feather that's pretty close, wrap it up next to the fly, and just kind of see how far those hackles extend. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for hackle fibers that extend about a gap and a half. So it'll come down to about here. What I don't want is hackles that are too short and they're about the size of the hook gap or less. And I certainly don't want things that are too long with where they overlap the wings and it causes that fly to ride too high up in the water. So I just pick out a feather that's close, and then I keep trying feathers until I get the right one. Okay, so I picked out a feather I think will be appropriate for our size of hook. Now again, I want to go over a point I had made earlier. You can see the webbing that's inside this feather here. We don't want to use a feather, or we don't want to use a portion of the feather that has greater than 25% webbing within its within the feather itself. So right about here is probably where I'm gonna tear off the fibers. Now when you put a dry fly hackle on, now this is for right-handers obviously, you're going to be putting it on this way with the dull side towards the front. The other thing that you want to do is that when you go to tear off your hackle fibers here, this side right here is going to be the side that I wind first. So what I want to do is take off some of the hackle fibers off of this side in comparison to the other side, so it looks something like that. That way when I go to wrap it, it's the feather will basically understand what I'm trying to do, and then this side will be down onto the hook first, so it'll allow me to wrap it correctly. Okay, a couple points that we should make here while we put the feather onto the hook. One, when I go to put the feather on, I want to make sure that it's on edge here. I don't want to be laying it flat. It's going to be right on edge. And I want to make sure that I go up right against those first hackles there. And then what I want to do is orient it to where it's almost perpendicular to the hook shank. Then I'll just wrap forward here. I'm going to pull down on this stem. I'm going to bring it around to the front. This will help to strengthen the fly. Make a couple of wraps right in front of that wing. And I'm going to bring this all the way down to about where I'm going to stop the hackle. The hackle is going to stop short of that though. And we can just go ahead and cut this at this point. Alright, now comes our trusty hackle pliers. Now what we're going to do here is attach that to this wing at the very end of it. Now you could, this is long enough you could do it by hand, but we'll show you a little usage of the hackle plier here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that. Now those first few, you see right now, those first few fibers are not exactly going where I want them to here. If you notice, these are kind of falling backwards. I'm just going to kind of orient those, let them know what I want them to do here. Okay. Now we can start wrapping our hackle forward. And as you can see, if it doesn't want to stay on edge, you just give it a little twist here and tell that feather what I want it to do right there. Tell that's right where I want it to be. Now once I wrap that first go around, then I can probably bring it back Yeah, now it's on edge. So a little twist there. And you want to make sure that your hackle wraps are right up against the previous one. Go real slow here. We're in no rush. Okay, now I'm going to take one more turn, and now this one I'm going to pull those wings forward a little bit. And I want that wrap to be right up against those wings. Just kind of seesaw it through there. Okay, now this first wrap is going to be in front of the wings. I'm going to pull the wings back, and this will help give support to those wings. Right up against them like that. Take a couple more wraps here. And I can see that I'm probably a little bit too far out. I'll bring this back one. And we'll take this last one here. Now what I'm going to do here, here's a little trick to doing hackle. When I bring this around to the back side, I'm separating those hackle fibers. Okay, they're separating. What I'm going to do is separate those hackle fibers like so. Transfer this over. Bring my thread to the, just unwind the thread 1/2 of a wrap here, and then come back and just grab that hackle like so. Now that I've captured it, take one more turn. Boom. That way I'm not laying down a whole bunch of hackle fibers. Now what I can do is just kind of push them back here. Get them away from the eye. And what I can do, if there's a couple of stragglers, nothing wrong with just going in and grabbing them. And there you have your hackle. I don't use a whip finishing tool. I don't really see any reason for them. So I just don't use them. I do it the old-fashioned way. I do it by hand. So what I do here is I grab the whole thing, just kind of pull back, expose that eye, take a couple of wraps to close off the hook eye itself. Those will pop back up by themselves. And then I do my whip finish. Now one thing you can notice here, and I'll do a separate video on whip finishes without a tool. I angle the thread forward so that I'm not grabbing any of those hackle fibers, then I just bring it right down where I want it. And then we just wrap it around. I go about 4 or 5 times. And you can make a really nice, neat little head here. You can place these threads wherever you want them to go. And we'll do one more right in the middle. Grab the fiber there. And be done with it. Now, when I go to grab this thread, again, I'm going to angle it away from the hackle fibers. I've got it in my scissors. I get up slowly and be done with it. And then make it a real nice, tight cut. Just use the edge of one of your scissor blades. And you are done.